Hey, StingKnight. In today's video, I'll be showing you guys a list of things you can do once you have run out of content. Perhaps you're bored of endgame raiding or you're bored of MSQ. Hopefully this video will give you some ideas to get back into FF14. So with that said, let's jump right in. Crafting and gathering. So I personally quite enjoyed crafting as well as gathering in FF14. It may not be for everybody, so I definitely recommend you give it a shot first before you say no to it. Secondly, you will also make a lot of gil from crafting in general. However, you do have to be very active if you are planning to craft the endgame gear, the 610 raid gear, which is what I'm doing, because there are a lot of bots in the game who will undercut you every 15 to 20 minutes. It's kind of sad that it is the way it is. If you're really active, you can make a lot of money from that. Or if you're not really active, you can sell stuff like furnitures, glams. There are also other things you can craft, not just the endgame raid gear. So don't worry about that if you're not active. And for gathering, I would say the leveling process was actually really fun for me. You basically just go around gathering nodes. In this place called Diadem, which is in Foundation. You can easily look it up if you're intending to level a gatherer. To level up Fisher, you basically just do ocean fishing, and that's pretty much it. As you can see, I have built up quite a inventory of 610 endgame gear items, but I'm at a point where I don't really care too much about gil anymore, and gil doesn't really serve me any purpose, so I just kind of got lazy with it and I just don't bother checking it anymore because they do get undercut very frequently. Flipping items. So what I mean by this is basically you go to another server, buy an item for cheap, and then go to your own server, come back, put it on your server's market board and sell it for a profit. So you do need a little bit of gil to get started, otherwise you have nothing, you have no money to buy items, which you will need. So one of the easiest way for you to get started on is to go to your own server's market board, click on any type of class or any weapon or anything like that. I'm gonna select body and I'm gonna type in level 80 here, and usually I just look up tanks first. I just click on paladin and click on body once again, and then the top piece is what we're looking for. You want to click on it, right click, copy item name, and then you want to head over to universalist.app to check the price on the other servers, and you just paste the name on the search bar and press enter. And here, as we're speaking, on Phantom server this costs 10,000 gil, but it's being sold for almost 100,000 gil in my server. So you can see there's a great potential for profit here, and on some other servers it sells for about 40,000. So you can definitely buy this item and go over to your own server and then try to sell it for a decent amount of profit in return. However, there's always that risk of an item's price being dumped to the gutters, so that is something you always want to keep in mind of. It's not like 100% guaranteed profit, and also some items does take a little bit longer to sell because it's so expensive. And this is not the only thing you can sell. There's different types of armor pieces, there's also different classes weapons, gatherers, crafters, there's also materials for crafting, from gathering, all that kind of stuff, furnitures as well. So gear is not the only thing. If you do your own research, you may be able to find something with a really big profit margin, and then you can make really good easy money. Moving on to PvP. Now, when you think of PvP, you must think it is something competitive. Actually, it is not quite the case. Now, Frontline is a game mode that I do quite often these days, and is quite fun as a side activity. Not only that, it is actually also quite casual. Now, why did I say that? It is a game mode with 72 players, if I'm not wrong, and it's basically 24 versus 24 versus 24. So basically, you can play really well or play really bad. No one is going to give a damn. So there's absolutely no pressure to perform well, and if you play well, then great. You're having fun, you're killing people, that's good, that's even better. And not only that, you get a bunch of rewards from doing this type of stuff. Frontline is part of the daily roulettes, which means you gain bonus tombstones. If you're below level 90, you get the normal tombstone. If you are level 90, then you get the astronomy and the casualty tombstones, as well as wolf marks. There are also other game modes such as Crystal Conflict, which is a 5 versus 5. It is a little bit more competitive and a bit more intense and difficult. If you're looking for that, then you can definitely try this. There's also rival rings, but no one really plays that. There have been a lot of activity in this game mode recently because of the irregular Tombstone of Creation event, but other than that, I don't really see the queue popping for this game mode. Now, talking about PvP currency you gain from playing these PvP matches, you're then able to head over to the Wolf's Den, where you can exchange your PvP currency for various types of items, such as mounts, emotes, glams, just a bunch of good stuff, as well as if you type /PvP profile in the chat and head over to the serious rewards, serious points, there's also a bunch of rewards there as well. Jump puzzle. It is a nice, fun side activity you can do at any time, at any moment, and you can drop out of it anytime you want as well. Really, no strings attached, no stress to it. It's something you can come and do as you please, whenever you want. And there are also some jump puzzles that are quite challenging and might take you a little bit to complete if you're into that sort of thing, or you can go for the easier jump puzzles just to have a good time. Golden Salsa. So this is basically the gambling place of FF14. There are a bunch of mini games here, such as the Crystal Tower Strike, where you just smash it as hard as you can, and the higher it goes, the more MGP you win, which is basically the currency you use here. There's also Monster Toss, and then there's also your weekly fashion report, which you can do as well to earn more MGP. There's also Mahjong, which you can play against the NPCs. Here are the NPCs where you can exchange your MGP for actual items, such as glam. There's a bunch of glam you can purchase using MGP. There are hairstyles, emotes, a bunch of other good stuff you can purchase after getting a lot of MGP from playing in this place. There's also like a mini scratch card kind of thing going on here that you can easily participate, so you can win big money. And lastly, the Triple Triad, which is the card game of FF14. So I probably missed some things out, but in general, this is the core activities you can do in Golden Salsa. Once you get into it, it could definitely take up a bit of your time. Nightclubs. I think nightclubs is quite closely linked to obviously community events as well as role-playing, but I think it's very popular now. There's a lot of nightclubs every single night happening, so I think it kind of deserves its own mention. It's kind of its own thing. Obviously, the name nightclub, it is a place where you can expect perhaps some erotic stuff happen, maybe someone sliding into your DMs, perhaps whispering you, maybe chatting you up. It is also a place to socialize, to make some friends, and as well as role-playing at a nightclub. You can dance, you can get drunk in real life if that's what you want. Like perhaps you can't go outside, and you can have some fun indoor in your house. But most importantly, what I go there for is gambling, which is most often done in either in a game of blackjack or poker. I've only done blackjack so far. Oftentimes after I'm done playing blackjack, or if there's not a host hosting the blackjack game, then do a death roll with some of my friends in game instead, where basically you do slash dice in party chat, and the first person to basically roll 1 loses. And I usually death roll 1 million because why the hell not? I have no use of gills, so I just YOLO it. Role playing. Perhaps you're somebody who's interested in role playing, and honestly in FF14 there's a lot you can role play as, and there's a big community who's also interested in role playing. However, I think it's a little bit difficult to find them. For me, basically I just hanged around in Limsa Limonta in my server, and I got invited to join the police Eorzea police roleplay group. However, it's kind of like inactive at the moment. He actually created a free company for the purpose of this roleplay, and then he basically bought a house, and as you can see in the footage, he straight up made a goddamn prison for the roleplay. And I may or may not have brought people here and then like torture them a little bit, extort them. Of course I don't do that. And usually what people do when you're invited to a roleplay group, you don't actually need to join Discord servers. You basically just get invited to a link shell. For example, this is the Eorzea PD I'm in for my server, or there's some other roleplay groups as well that you can potentially join. Link shells are for the server you're in. For me, it's Louis Suarez. Crossroll link shell is for within the entire data center. And within my data center, I'm also in the Queen's Guard, which is just another casual roleplay group. So most of these groups have, you know, nothing strict about them. It is all quite casual. You can attend if you want to. If you don't want to attend, you don't need to do it. The main thing is everybody's having fun. Every now and then you may stumble across a situation where people are doing some 18 plus stuff. I'll just call it stuff or activities. So if you're not 18 plus, I may just walk away. But if you are 18 plus and you enjoy this kind of stuff, then sure, go ahead. And I don't judge. Hey, I'm just here to observe. All right. One of the community events I went to recently was a gambling event hosted by a nightclub. So it kind of goes back to my previous point. It's all kind of like connected in a way, but this is like a special event. Basically, we did a death roll tournament for 250 million. The winner takes the whole 250 million. You basically just do slash random in chat, and the first person to reach 1 basically loses. And we had to first roll to get into the top 16 spot to play this tournament to begin with. And I managed to get in, but unfortunately, I was the first person to go out. So there goes my chance of winning 250 million, unfortunately. But it was a lot of fun and I really enjoyed it. Even though this doesn't happen very often, when it does happen, it can be a lot of fun. And during the whole night, there were like a random money giveaway of the highest roller or the lowest roller. And basically, you get given 300k gills for rolling. And that happened throughout the entire night for like maybe 5 to 6 hours non-stop. They just kept giving out 300k gills. And there was also raffle tickets you can buy, perhaps for a chance to win some big money, like a little mini lottery. Another type of event that you will probably see the most often is treasure maps or mount farm. So in the footage is the mount farm. Basically, you go into this specific trial or raid unsynced. So basically, you're maxed out in gear and you'll be doing this really quickly, usually under 5 minutes or so. And at the end, there's a small chance of you getting a mount drop. And basically, people farm that repeatedly for hours and hours until everybody in the group gets a mount. Relic weapon. If you're someone who wants a good looking weapon glam, then look no further than weapon relics, as these weapons are one of the best looking in the entire game. And there's a whole list of them that you can grind for. So basically, each expansion have its own relic weapon that you can grind for. However, if something like a Gunbreaker is unable to grind for like a Realms Reborn relic weapon because Gunbreaker did not come out at a Realms Reborn. So unfortunately, some classes are limited to less options. For example, I play mostly Dragoon and I have grinded for the Zodiac weapon, which usually is a really bright glow. That's the theme of the weapon as you grind through the different stages. And then here I have the Anima weapon, which is easiest weapon to grind for in my opinion. Basically, you just need a bunch of tombstones and then you're pretty much all the way through for this Anima weapon grind. Not only that, you will also have to unlock a bunch of content on the way. You will have to complete dungeons, trials, raids, etc. In order to farm certain stuff or just to complete the quest in order to move on to the next step for the next stage weapon. And honestly, it is a bit of a grind. So whilst the weapon may look good, it may not actually be worth the time and effort for you to grind for it. So I would do a little bit of extra research into it before you fully commit into whether you want to do this or not, because it does take a long time. Any other relic weapons than the Anima one takes a very, very long time. And I mean possibly like weeks and weeks of grinding. And if you're someone who's busy, have a busy schedule, this will take even longer. It might take you months to grind for these weapons. Bojzan, Southern Front, or Eureka. Sort of continuing from my previous point, some of the relic weapons will require you to do either Bojzan or Eureka, which is mainly just extra content where we can also farm tombstones and XP to level our combat jobs. Not only this, it's kind of like a little game of its own because you will have a new rank instead of levels for this area, and there are quests you have to complete, and you have to complete certain amount of activities within the area in order to rank up to the next zone. Once you level up to the next zone, you're then able to unlock better items, which will help you and boost your stats within the zone. There's also gear you can purchase, but I haven't really made use of these gear at all. Honestly, I'm not an expert in this. I have been doing this quite a bit just to farm tombstones casually for my relic weapons. This is also a great way to farm money in Bojzan because you're able to farm Bojzan clusters, which then you're able to exchange for certain items like emote books, which goes up to 500k, a million, possibly a mount. Some of these fragments also are worth a decent amount. If you're here grinding for a few hours, you're gonna make a ton of these fragments and they go up for a decent amount. And basically you just turn these fragments into what I just showed you earlier, into abilities, extra abilities for this zone. So you can actually make a lot of money from grinding Bojzan, just farming the clusters, or you can either farm the clusters or you can rank up by doing fates and doing bosses, which will allow you to rank up further and get more tombstones. Endgame raids. Definitely content to do if we want to have a bit of challenge compared to normal PvE content available in the game. However, it is week 17, meaning that most players looking to raid have already completed this type of content, especially the latest raid tier, which is the P5S to P8S. And what this means is basically most players who wanted to do it have already completed it and they have gone best in slot and they're not really looking to do raids anymore. They probably have done too much of it at this point and probably are bored of it as well. So you may struggle to find players in Party Finder, which is the main tool you look for players to do raids with. However, you can always just look for a static, but that requires more commitment, scheduling, so that's not the type of thing for everybody. If you're planning to raid, I recommend doing it as early in the week as possible from Tuesday, because Tuesday is the reset day, meaning most players are looking to raid on Tuesdays. And Mondays are the days I will tell you to avoid completely because that's the most difficult day to find anybody doing raids with. As is a Monday, most people are probably just home from work, just waiting for the reset day on Tuesday, and then they will look to do the raid. Now, the endgame content doesn't just revolve around the latest raid tier. There are also statics doing older synced content, meaning you would lower your eye level for that specific content. For example, you can be looking for a P1S to P4S raid group, and they would have you lower your gear level to, I believe, 580 to 590. That's the gear score for the previous tiers. And there are also many older raids that you can try to do with different groups. There are a lot of people recruiting for that kind of stuff. So that's it for the video. If you have any more side activities or content to do, please leave a comment down below and let everybody know. If you have found the video helpful, make sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe for more future FF14 content. As always, thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.